Time now to get into the Premier League crystal ball. This is where we make some brash predictions for the rest of the year that Owen stores in his little locker to release in
doesn't happen
heavily edited form.
Yes.
To make sure that he looks great and everybody else looks like a chump. Nathan is here as a chump volunteer. I'm also going to volunteer to be a chump, and let's get into it. How many points, this is the first question, how many points between Manchester City and the rest? Oh, and you're going to go first in all these today, just to make sure that you get your answer out first.
Okay, I was trying to make a case for everybody else in this year's Premier League title race, and I ended up making such a case for Chelsea in my own head, which is definitely going to blow up my face here. And I'm actually going to go -2 points on Manchester City, and I think Chelsea are going to win the Premier League this season. And I think there are slight similarities. Like when I look through this, and I think this is going to come up in a lot over this, there's slight similarities I see in this Chelsea arc with the Liverpool arc of a couple of seasons ago. There are tons of differences, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of felt that before Liverpool got over the line in the Premier League, they kind of had Manchester City's number, and I know that they were in kind of like games that didn't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things, because over 38 games City would win the Premier League anyway, but it felt that Liverpool were getting closer and closer in those games against Manchester City. And we know for a fact that Tuchel has Manchester City's number. He played them 3 times at the end of last season, and he won all those 3 games. I'm sure part of that was part of a new manager bounce, which now evaporates. But the thing is, the new manager that gave you that bounce is still there, and he's still very much a Chelsea manager and is still very much invested in getting the best from the squad. I think they might actually have made the signing of the summer in Lukaku. That's not exactly a hot take. I think that, other than Harry Kane, I think he'd be my favourite for Golden Boot this season. And you look at all the attacking talent around him, Havertz, Pulisic, and Timo Werner, who, away from the number 9 role, may actually contribute a lot to that attack. You've got Mount and Jorginho and Kante behind him. And yes, there is a slight concern about the age of Thiago Silva, but you look at who's backing him up in central defence with Rudiger and Christensen and Zuma, and I'm like, they've got depth in all those positions. I'm not entirely sold on their full-backs / wing-backs, and I'm not entirely sold on Mendy. Whereas with Manchester City, you can not really say that about any position of their team. But I just think that the more I think about it, the more I'm like, when this comes down to a title race at the end of the season and Manchester City start to pivot a little bit towards Champions League focus, if Chelsea are in the hunt, they will take Manchester City in this title race.
Okay, that's interesting. Are there any other teams in the race?
I don't know what Nathan thinks here, but I think that we go into every season with this really big hope of there being a 4 or maybe even 5 horse race, and it never materialises. But you look at Konate pinging passes around for Liverpool, and
I mean, come on, I see you Liverpool fans. Like, you know, it's a pre-season friendly. Was it against Vitesse? Who was it even against? Some Dutch side? What?
I actually can't remember.
Yeah. Come on.
And like you start to see that those players coming back, and you're like, there is an opportunity here for Liverpool to get back to where they were 2 seasons ago, because and we'll get into Liverpool in a while, but there is kind of, this season is really important for them. Their front 3 will all be 30 this time next year, and it kind of feels that they do have one last thing in the tail. And Manchester United, obviously, I think that, again, we'll get into them a little bit later on, but they have to step up and continue their title race for a full season this year, in my opinion. So this actually could be something that resembles a 4-horse race. But again, we say this every year, and Manchester City just run away with it, and we're all disappointed.
Nathan?
I think if Manchester City sign Harry Kane, and if he stays fit for the season, they'll win this league well. They could win it by 8-10 points. And in fact, I think if they sign Harry Kane and they don't win the league, it is a massive failure when you look at the squad that Pep Guardiola would have at his disposal. Like last season, they were picking practically full-strength first teams and still had a bench valued at 300-400 million. And for all that Chelsea and United have done, if they sign Kane, they will still have the strongest squad. And I would hope if they sign Kane, they're winning the league with the sort of style that we saw when they won the back-to-back titles 3-4 years ago. If they don't sign Kane, it's very easy to make a case against Manchester City. They won the league last season by playing well for a third of the season. That middle third, when their main rivals, Liverpool, Tottenham, completely collapsed. Manchester City and Chelsea were never consistent enough. They went on this 14-game winning run that just killed everybody. But they were bang average for the first third of the season. And then they had it won in the final third of the season. As Owen said, we're sort of concentrating on the Champions League. And there were questions there around several players not stepping up to it. So if they don't sign Harry Kane, who is going to score the goals that they need? Ilkay Gundogan was their top scorer in the league last season. Highly unlikely it's going to happen again. Has Raheem Sterling kissed and made up with Pep Guardiola? Are they good to go at the start of this season? Where are they going to play Grealish? Is he going to play as part of the midfield three? Is he going to play on the left-hand side up front? I think Kane is crucial. I think they need to replace Sergio Aguero. If they don't sign Harry Kane, maybe there's somebody else that they've lined up in the background again that can get them 20 Premier League goals. But yeah, it does come down to that for me. I think Harry Kane is that important,
so he's not
that key a player.
He's not there at the moment, right? And so when Owen clips this in 9 months' time to humiliate you, how many points between Manchester City and the rest is the question?
If he doesn't sign for Kane,
as it is today, he doesn't have Harry Kane.
I'll say I'll still go with City by a point.
Okay, I'm going with City by 3. I think City are going to win. I think that I like everything that Tuchel has done. I still have in my head the Manchester United version of Lukaku. I did not see enough. I have to confess, I did not see enough of Lukaku and his games at Inter to fully understand the stories that I'm hearing about how he has evolved and how his strike rate and his percentage completion rate has gone through the roof, and he's a much more complete player. So that's on me. But if he has become the complete centre forward, if he is legitimately at Lewandowski's level as opposed to everybody talking it into existence, then fair play. But I mean, if he's the same player as he was at Manchester United, or if there's any ghosts haunting him from the Premier League, or if Premier League defenders are somehow different from what he experienced in Italy, then how much of an upgrade is it on Timo Werner? And, you know, I'm very interested, Owen, in you saying that Timo Werner might still have a role here. I expect Timo Werner to play in the League Cup and in the dead rubbers as the season progresses in the Champions League or whatever. So let's wait and see. Okay, so who will be the rebound story of the season? An individual, a team, a trend?
I think you can probably paint Lukaku as a rebound in the Premier League context, but I think that's probably too much of a reach to put him in rebound territory given the season he had last season as a footballer. For me, I'm going to, this is pipe dream stuff, but I think Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang could have a really good season. And again, every single positive argument you want to make about Arsenal is predicated on the fact that they are not playing European football this season. They're not wasting their time in the Conference League or the Europa League, and players of that age may actually have an ability to rest up and, I don't know, try and earn one last big fat contract out of the football club that they're playing for. And that sort of incentive for Aubameyang to get back to the level that he was immediately after COVID. Let's not forget that he was brilliant after COVID. It's not ancient history, his brilliant form for Arsenal. I think it's possible. I think it's possible that they find that this season. And as a team, they don't stand a hope of finishing in the top 4 and probably not in the top 6. But I do think that they will see an improved season as a result of not having midweek football. And I think Aubameyang will be indicative of that. Like another person that you could possibly look at in a similar position is Anthony Martial, but I actually just think that Cavani's going to play too many games and Greenwood's going to play too many games in central positions this season for Martial.
Cavani's not back. That was the interesting. It's like, oh, Cavani's not back because he was playing so much international football. Like, why is he not back? What's going on? He's not going to start the season.
And as the season goes on, you'd imagine that he will.
He will, of course, yeah. I mean,
but Greenwood's their guy now with Sancho at right wing, you would suspect. But I still think there's an outside shot here at Anthony Martial having a big rebound season.
Okay, 2 quick candidates for me. Nuno has the potential. That's essentially a rebound, right? And Trent. I mean, wasn't Trent one of the most maligned footballers in the world for a little period of time last year? His game had gone to pot. Like he had the yips all of a sudden. Everything he did, he gave the ball away 600 million times that one game. And I'd say there were loads of games where Trent whipped in 2 crosses, goals came off them, and he probably gave the ball away just as many times in that same game. But the end product was better, and Liverpool were doing a little bit better and winning matches, and there was less pressure. And I don't know. So they're my 2 candidates.
Well, Trent was probably Liverpool's best player for the last 6-7 games of the season, so there were signs there at least. I'm going to go for Dele Alli. That maybe Nuno is the man to get him back to where he was. Still only 25. He's had a horrible couple of seasons that were started through injury. And then Jose Mourinho, who clearly, as we saw from the documentary from day one, had no interest in Dele Alli. One of the most exciting X-Factor type players in the Premier League. Never one to dominate a game, but what he could pop up with at crucial moments. There were few who could do it, and it's just been such a shame. Like, to think he wasn't even anywhere near the conversation around an England squad, considering where he was 2-3 years ago, is such a shame. So I would love if Nuno could find a way of setting Tottenham up that had Dele Alli playing week in, week out. So
is there a right wing back at Spurs who might be the rebound player of the year, or are we saving this for the Irish player to watch?
We can save it for the Irish player to watch, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Nuno's a good shout, though, for your rebound. Following Jose Mourinho is a really good idea if you want your stock to rise in any shape or form.
Luis Van Gaal, come on down. I mean, he managed to somehow parlay that back into a comeback. I can't believe it. Anyway, what a success for Manchester United this season.
I kind of said this at the top, a meaningful title challenge. I don't think it was a meaningful title challenge last season. It seemed like it for half of the season, but you got to go the whole way. And I think that if they're not in contention in April at the end of the season, that will not be a successful year. We're talking solely in the context of Premier League here. Maybe in the Champions League they can put something together that does make up for any domestic failings.
How far do they need to go in the Champions League?
To make up for that, I think semi-finals, if they're not going to actually make a real fist of this all the way. But they should be. I think that the squad is good enough to be going all the way. Like, I think there were two reasonable arguments about Manchester United not being at the level last season, and that was their centre-back failings and their midfield failings. They fixed one of those problems, so I still give them a free pass in the midfield thing if they don't get over the line, and if they manage to sort that out, then they have to win the title next season. But on centre-back, you look at Varane and Maguire, and on paper it's as good as anybody else in the league. In reality, will that be the case? Who knows? But I still think you look around at those top four teams and everybody's well set at centre-back now, it seems. But I think Varane and Maguire, I think they're right up there.
Nathan?
Yeah, they need to be in a title race. They need to have games in April and May that really mean something, that they have a chance of winning the title if they go and win this match. There aren't really any more excuses, because in every part of the pitch they've made a massive investment. So if Solskjaer can't get them into contention, they'll be looking for somebody else. And if they start the season slowly, I still am convinced that United fans totally trust Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And while they've signed brilliantly, and maybe Varane is a transformational signing, and suddenly you look at their midfield differently because Varane enables them to play a different way. But a lot of the same issues are still there. That, you know, when Marcus Rashford comes back, where does Paul Pogba play if Rashford starts playing on the left-hand side? Are they going to play with just one of Fred and McTominay? That still feels like one area where there are question marks over. And they're starting the season with David De Gea in goal in all likelihood, which, again, is not exactly where they want to be. Maybe Dean Henderson comes back after the international break and all is fine.
Maybe.
But I think right now I think they're going to be brilliant to watch. I think they're going to be really good to watch and going to score a lot of goals and beat a lot of teams. But I'm just not sure they have the manager to win the title.
It's going to be very interesting to see how he continues to evolve, because I think he's definitely shown signs of progress, and I think that you can't deny that they are in a better position than they were, and that, like, it's a huge risk. It has been a huge risk giving him all this money and giving him all this time, but they've doubled down on it. They've given him a new contract. I don't think he's in the same scenario that he was last season, when we were week on, week off going, okay, he's going to get sacked if they lose this, he's going to get sacked if they lose this. That hasn't happened, and I think with that will come some confidence, and I suspect that they will be in a title race, and I suspect they will be good enough to reach semi-finals of a Champions League, and then who knows. So that's success. But if anything short of that, anything like being out of the title race in January or February, is failure. Okay, so will Liverpool be better or worse as a club at the end of this season?
It'd be interesting to get Nathan's take on this one. I think they'll be slightly worse relative to their rivals, even though the signs at the end of last season were hugely encouraging. Just because you factor in Chelsea and City's spending power, if United do actually manage to have a sustainable title challenge, then they will have a sniff of glory and they will spend big next summer, and then Liverpool will be heading into a summer where, as I say, all their traditional front three are at the age of 30, and they will need to try and inject something into that team, you suspect. There will be contracts that expire in 2023, so they'll have to get them sewn up, I would assume, over the next few months, actually. And if those don't go as smoothly as they would hope, then I think they might be in a spot of bother, because their recruitment over the last 5-6 years has been absolutely exceptional. Can they keep hitting those jackpots? I'm not so sure they can, especially when those other big three teams that I mentioned are going to be so hungry to keep signing. You've got the African Cup of Nations right in the middle of the season this year as well, which is not going to help them one bit if they're going to try and mount a title challenge, I reckon. and I do think they will be in a slightly worse place. But again, there were moments last year when, as you say, Nathan, when Trent started to play better, the whole team started to play better, and it was like, okay, they're sort of back.
It feels as though more has to go right for Liverpool this season than anybody else. Even, we look in the last couple of days, Andy Robertson picks up an injury and there's almost full panic because they don't have the depth. They're looking at Chimikas, who they never used last season, thinking, can he step up? I think automatically at the end of next season, you're a step closer to Jurgen Klopp leaving the club, which is a bad place for Liverpool. He's been the most important figure by a country mile of the Premier League era. And anything that moves you closer to him leaving the club, he's going to be practically irreplaceable. And you're right on the age profile. Virgil van Dijk is another one who suddenly is another year older. And you can't keep... I have Liverpool fans saying, oh, you know, we know what Michael Edwards does. You know, he will find someone for 35, 40 million, like a Diogo Jota, who will make that step up and will become Mo Salah. But what won Liverpool the league was that they spent 70 million on Virgil van Dijk and something similar on Alisson. They bought the best players in the world in their position. And that's not what they've done since then. So that's what transformed them. And they need to go and do that again. It's not going to be this summer, it seems. If not this summer, they're going to need to do it next summer and buy a player, an attacking player or a midfielder who is the best in the world at his position. And it doesn't look as though FSG are going to do that. I still think if they start the season well, if they get some momentum, and if you have Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Van Dijk, all playing at their best, it's such a solid foundation. I think Mo Salah will be right in the running for top scorer once again this season, will get 20 goals. I would just have concerns around midfield without Wijnaldum, and it's an area they haven't improved enough over the last couple of years. But maybe Thiago, second season, kicks on.
Too many ifs for me for that. I think they're going to be in a worse place at the end of the season, just as a factor of the fact that all of the other teams are actually getting their act in order. Like the Manchester United arrivals, the Chelsea manager finally being a good, competent, grown-up, and them having that talent pool, that automatically means that the pack have got closer to Liverpool, and then Liverpool are so far off where they were when they were the best team by a country mile that to get back up to that level, I'm not quite sure. Okay, so which signing will have the biggest impact on their new team?
It was Osasuna, by the way, that Konate looked absolutely incredible again. So he could certainly be a contender. But, I mean, if they're going to have Gomez and Van Dijk fit, why not just proceed with them? I think somebody that probably everybody's been excited to see a little bit of is Patson Daka for Leicester, just because Leicester are such a watchable team. And we've kind of always felt that there was going to be a regression even mid-season over the past couple of years. And yes, they have bottled it late on in both of those seasons, but they have still managed to sustain 2 really good years, and now they're layering talent on top of that. Of course, he may not start the game, and he may actually, or start the season, he may actually be competing with Iheanacho and with Vardy for one place. But if they go 2 up top, which they do in games that they expect to win, then I expect this guy to come in and shoot the lights out. I think 24 goals 2 seasons ago in the Bundesliga, and then 27 last year. This is not a one-season wonder. This is a guy that Leicester City did extremely well to sign. Again, if you want a pipe dream here, I think Ben White for Arsenal was a nice piece of business. But who the hell knows how his defensive partner is going to go throughout the season.
All right.
Christian Romero, Tottenham, centre-back. I ended up commentating on a lot of Atlanta games in the Champions League last season, and after every single match you thought, Romero is going right to the very top. I'm surprised that one of the teams that have qualified for the Champions League didn't go from. Maybe Tottenham got fortunate that they didn't need centre-half replacements or had already looked elsewhere. He's still only 23, has massive potential. He's strong. He's got good pace. He's exceptional in the air. He could end up scoring 4 or 5 goals in the Premier League this season. But most of all, and you can see it on the pitch, he is a proper leader. And that is something Tottenham need at the back. They need somebody in that Ruben Dias style, though, while young, is able to go into that dressing room and is able to be commanding. And he was that player in that Atlanta side. Okay. And I think he's probably going to be one of the best signings of the season.
We all know the correct answer to this is Emi Buendia. That's, you know, it's written in the stars. Or Danny Ings.
Danny Ings, yeah.
I mean, how much did they pay for Danny Ings? I'd like to know.
Where's
that.
Ollie Watkins going?
That would make
Where does Ollie Watkins fit into all this?
He is going to form a beautiful partnership with Danny Ings.
Yeah, and Buendia plays behind him. Across any of those positions behind him, he can fill in a gap. Who is your season ticket team?
I actually think Villa could be a really fun watch this year. I know Grealish is gone, but the players that you've mentioned there, as well as Bertrand Traore, who was low-key one of the most entertaining players to watch throughout the course of last season, I would absolutely take a season ticket for Aston Villa. If we're talking about outside the top six, like the obvious answer is Leeds, and maybe Marcelo Bielsa is like, he's had a new philosophical mindset this year, and he's like, I am now Steve Bruce, or I am now Sam Allardyce, and we are now going to play turgid football. And I would not be surprised if he just decides to throw the book out. But I think that they're obviously like with the qualities that they have. Junior Firpo being signed could be the sort of magnificent roaming left-sided player. Rafinha obviously has a brilliant year last year. Looking forward to seeing him in his second year. But Villa and Leeds will be the two, and Brentford possibly of the best of the promoted sides.
Okay. I don't have any other answers than that. Nathan, have you?
You want to go to Elland Road at some stage this season. Like, they haven't been in the Premier League, the supporters, for 16, 17 years, I think so. And I think Manchester United will be brilliant to watch at times this season.
Okay. Who will be the great underachievers? Quick answers to these last three.
West Ham, Europe.
Fair enough.
Arsenal.
They can't underachieve worse than last season, can they? Are you
the last 2 seasons? I think they could. I'm not in any way convinced by Mikel Arteta. Like, they were fortunate to finish top half. They could finish outside the top half.
If Spurs keep Harry Kane and don't finish in the Champions League places, then is that technically an underachievement?
No.
This is.
I'm
not
Kane,
sure.
like, he's supposed to be one of the best players in the world.
If they do keep him.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I'm not sure on Nuno. Like, that last season on Wolves, I loved what he did the first couple of seasons. I'm just not sure right now with Nuno. I don't think Spurs will be underachievement.
The template from American sports is that you learn really quickly from your failures, and that actually you get another opportunity, as opposed to it being a merry-go-round, that actually the managers do get better, the coaches get better from their failures. And I think there's a case to be made for that. So I'm not going to put Spurs in that. I think there's a chance that post Grealish, Villa struggle this year, just for all of the reasons that it's there's a huge expectation. The fans will be back. They won't have any tolerance for any of the mistakes, and they won't have the opportunity to try the things that they tried last season and come off. So I'm just maybe that's just natural glass half empty of a supporter pre-season concerned after their best players left. Very quickly, which manager's here for a good time, not a long time?
I think Nathan could be onto something there with Mikel Arteta. I kind of fear from, if things go wrong, he will be the scapegoat, unfortunately. And I actually think that Patrick Vieira is the obvious choice in this category.
Well, Sisco's already outstayed his welcome at Watford. He's been there since December.
Rafa Benitez? We haven't even mentioned this.
I almost had Rafa Benitez in the potential comeback. Like, are we going to have Everton and Liverpool supporters both singing his name when it comes to the first Merseyside derby?
No. Okay, the Irish player to watch?
Go on.
I'm actually going for Nathan Collins here. I've got dollar signs in my eyes. I'm like, wow, big money move. Sean Dyche believes in him, and he's probably won't start the season. But I think if Tarkowski or me go down, I think the pathway is there for him. He's been signed to be a mainstay of that team, and they're paying, what was it, £17 million for him. I think Omabama Dele has a good chance of playing well as well.
He's mine.
Norwich came up in a better defensive way than they did 3 seasons ago or 2 seasons ago.
I think he's going to get a move at the end of next season. He's the new Rio Ferdinand. You heard it here. We heard it here first in Vinnie Park.
Yeah, the problem is Nathan Collins, if Tarkowski doesn't leave and Tarkowski and me stay fit, he barely play all season. Omabama Dele, I think, has played every minute for Norwich, but they have signed players as well who might be back, so he might get a start this weekend, but again, might struggle for game time. It's not a pretty picture. I think I would go with Aaron Connolly, who I think may start the season, and we just need him to kick on to that next level. Like, we need Aaron Connolly to score 10 Premier League goals and to be a mainstay in that Brighton side. But aside from Connolly and Coleman, you're struggling to find too many Irish players who are definitely going to be starting for their clubs this season.
I hope Nuno is a catalyst for a rebirth. He might be.
The talk out of Tottenham seems to be that it's as likely that Doherty will leave as be their first choice right back. They're not going to play with a wing back. They're going to play 4 at the back, it seems. He's going to go with a different system. So, yeah, not ideal.
Nathan, good stuff. Thanks a million for that.
Cheers, lads.
What game have you got on Sunday?
Spurs, Manchester City.
Not a bad one.
Harry Kane, going to start, or going to play according to Nuno, which will be quite an interesting little sideshow.
All right. The Premier League is back with a bang. You can hear it live on Off the Ball on Sunday. You can get that on Newstalk. Of course, you can get it on the OTB Sports app. OTB Sports Radio is there for you. It's there all day, every day. We play this show live as a radio show. We play the evening show live as a radio show. And we've got all of our best archive material for you there, playing in continuous streams. It's essentially a radio station.